Now, Lord Seb Coe is among 7 candidates who wish to become arguably the most powerful and influential person in global sport, the president of the International Olympic Committee. Well, to discuss this more, we'll be joined by senior reporter Geraint Hughes. Geraint, we know the election will take place in March, so why are we talking about this today?
Because tomorrow, all the candidates, 7 as you mentioned there, get their 15 minutes of fame. It's an election that is very, very heavily controlled by the IOC, and there are lots of rules. I spoke to Seb Coe twice in sort of the back end of last year, but to do that, we had to have permission from the IOC to actually even talk about anything to do with his ideas for the IOC, for reform, for his manifesto. So tomorrow, Joe, all the 7 candidates literally get a chance to present to the entire IOC membership. So that's every nation on the planet that is an Olympic member, an Olympic National Association, so that's in excess of 200. They'll all get to hear the pitches, the manifestos, and it literally is, Joe, 15 minutes of fame. That's all you get. But they're doing it in the Swiss city of Lausanne. That's how they pitch, and that's the only time they're allowed to publicly talk to the membership that will vote for them. I was sure there'll be chit-chats in corridors, etc., but that is the only time they get to pitch them before the elections in March.
And lots of different people will have different things kind of high on their agendas. Johan Eliasch, another British candidate, Swedish-British, I think, standing against Lord Coe. He's put climate change high on his agenda.
Yeah, he's a really interesting man. And of the 7 candidates there, you know, 2 are British, going for, as you say, arguably the most powerful, important position in global sport. 2 of them are British. Seb Coe we know an awful lot about. Johan Eliasch, not so much. He's a very quiet man, but he's become involved in sport through the Ski and Snowboard Federation, the FIS. He's the president of that federation. But his credentials, his CV just makes your jaw drop. He's a billionaire. He's one of the richest people within the United Kingdom. He mixes with politicians and royalty. In turning around companies and making his fortune in the last 2 decades, going back over 2 decades, he's got fairly substantial green credentials. He's very, very concerned and invested within the environment. He's got a couple of companies, the Rainforest Foundation and the Cool Earth, which he invests in heavily as well. But one of his major concerns about when he becomes if he were to become the president of the IOC, Joe, is around climate change. It's one of the mega sporting events. It's the Olympics and probably the World Cup, the 2. There's a lot of travelling around. There's a lot of infrastructure, but also sport has the power to change. People actually listen to people who are involved in sports. We've seen about how role model sportsmen and sportswomen can be. Well, it's the same with just sporting events as well. So, Johan Eliasch, this is kind of his warning about the impending climate, well, not the impending, the climate change that the planet is going through right now.
Governments have not been very effective when it comes to climate change. And this is an existential threat to mankind. Planet wasn't designed for 8 billion people living the way we do. And there is only one planet. And we don't have the technology to go somewhere else in the galaxy or in the universe. Let's face it. So we're stuck here, and we have to do the best we can. And doing the best sometimes is not good enough. And here we need to find solutions.
So, Geraint, did he talk about a solution? Yeah,
the solutions. The reason why you don't really need to push him too much to talk about the environment and climate change. He was bringing that up. It's clearly a passion, and when you're a billionaire, the cynics can say, well, you've got the ability to do that. But as I say, he's been involved for over 2 decades in this kind of thing. He's talked about the existential crisis, the power of the IOC, the power of the Olympics, mega sporting events like the Olympics, like the FIFA World Cup. They can change perceptions of not just the public, but also governments as well. That was why he was saying that. Solutions-wise, now, Summer Olympics, obviously, Los Angeles is the next Summer Olympics, with all the wildfires that have been going around there. Again, it's about being more sustainable, issues like that. His speciality, I suppose, are the Winter Games, because he's the president of a snow sports, a Winter Games Federation. Really interesting. Listen to this. He's essentially saying there aren't that many venues that really should be hosting a Winter Games. They've got to come up with solutions, but also a way that the Winter Games can perhaps fit in with that environment. So he talks about rotations. Let's listen to what he said.
I'm not entirely negative about the future of the Winter Games. But here we have a duty also to act sustainably. We don't want to create infrastructure that can't be used in the future. And it's much better, and it's already been proposed by the IOC, is to have a rotation scheme. We focus on certain regions, venues, where the federations concerned, they bring events, support these regions. So with the events, maintenance to the facilities, investment can be done.
So for the Winter Games, smaller regions that are used every 2 or 3 editions of the Winter Games.
Yeah, so I mean, imagine this: we have, let's say, 10 places, and we rotate the games between these 10 places.
So, Grant, we mentioned 7 candidates. So what else, anyone else we should be looking out for in particular?
Yeah, right. So we've got the 2 Brits, Seb Coe and Johan Eliasch, who is a British citizen, you said there. He's of Swedish descent as well. Then Juan Antonio Samaranch. That name may sound familiar. His father was a previous president of the IOC, so he is technically Juan Antonio Samaranch Jr., a Spanish candidate. Kirsty Coventry. She was a much decorated Olympic swimmer, but now sports administrator. She's been the sports minister in Zimbabwe. The other candidates who are probably not, I would not say at the moment, in the running as much as perhaps those 4. We've got Prince Faisal Al Hussein from Jordan, David Lapiat, who is the president of the UCI, that's cycling's governing body, and a Japanese candidate, Morinabe Watanabe. In terms of quickly just saying who potentially are the front runners, I think at the moment you're looking at Seb Coe and Juan Antonio Samaranch. Samaranch has been involved in the IOC for decades. His father was in there as well. There is a legacy there. Coe is an astute politician. He's charismatic. He is a great communicator. One of PR's, a PR dream, I suppose, in that. But he has delivered the London 2012 Olympics. He's turned around athletics. This guy knows what he's doing. He's a very, very able communicator, gets things done. So they are, I think, the front 2. I think Kirsty Coventry can't be ruled out. And the reason why, she's thrived in an environment which was difficult, going from sport into sports administration. And also, she would, if successful, Joe, be the first ever woman to be the IOC president.